Welcome to the Checkered Floor Garage. My name is Frank, and this is the last video in my Stator replacement series for my 04 Vulcan 750. All I've got to do is get the battery in, connect up the stator and these pickup coil wires, get the electrics all set, rear tire back on, and I'll be able to start this bike for the first time since the beginning of the summer. Come on, let's get this done. I'm going to start here by taking off my stock Kawasaki regulator. And I'm going to put this MOSFET in its place. This FH020AA, really good regulator for these bikes. Unplug this connector here, and I'm going to snug this stock regulator connector back in here. I'm not going to need it. And you know what? I don't want to leave this just open to the atmosphere if it ever gets water in it. I'm just going to tape it up here. There we go. Now I'm going to get this new regulator back on, and it shares the same mounting pattern as your OEM regulator, which is nice. The MOSFET regulator, and really like any aftermarket regulator compared to your OEM, it's a good option to pair with the stator, especially when you're doing all this work. It'll keep the stator nice and happy. Next, I'm going to get this new battery in. These Vulcan 750s do really good with AGM, absorbed glass matte batteries. And the one of them that's really popular over at the Vulcan 750 Forum is this Yuasa YTX14 AHL-BH. I'm going to go ahead and slide in the battery, positive side, facing to the right of the bike. That helps to also just kind of lift up these this wiring harness up and out of the way. Good. And then next, get this top bracket piece along with your Phillips head screw. Loop that in here on the front, and we'll tighten this down. These factory bullet style stator connector wires, also not needed. The new stator is going to get hooked up straight into the MOSFET regulator. So I'm just going to tape these up and then snug them away. Here's where you can get a little creative if you want. You can route your stator wires and your pickup coil wires underneath, in between the stator case and the bevel output case here, where your transmission cover is, which is where it was from the factory. Or, like me, I'm just getting some wire loom protector. I'm going to route it underneath and back that way. But before I do that, before I cut this to length, I want to hook up my stator wires to the new regulator. I'm going to first plug in the stator input and then the battery terminal to the regulator. So I'm going to fish these back through there. And let's see if I can do the same thing for here, if it'll fit. That worked. I just had to bend back this mud flap piece back here, and now I'm going to put it back. There we go. Stator wires will connect right up here. Next, I'm going to crimp about 1/2 inch here from the stator wires that go to your regulator. But before you do, I got the super kit with the regulator, so it comes with like everything needed. Put on these heat shrink tubings first. I always forget that part. These wires are 10 gauge. And you put the wire in until it stops. Kind of like reaches a little blocker in there. All right, you stop and then you crimp it down. Crimp it down to the left of that little middle indentation. All right. Test for secureness. Good. And good. So those three all set. I don't know if I'm being a goof, but I can't get the heat shrink to go over the bullet connector, the crimp connector. So I'm just gonna cut these off And I got this kit on Amazon like a long time ago, so I'll just find a better size that goes over it and then heat shrink it when I'm ready. I went ahead and stripped the stator wires. Let's get my heat shrink wrap and get these on. Test to make sure that they're all snug, and let's get these heat shrink wraps heat shrunk. Just make doubly sure that you're happy with the placement and routing of the wires. Like I said, mine goes above this part of the frame here. That way I can snug this nice and neatly behind the Vulcan 750 side cover. If you mess up this part, you'll have to undo your connections and reroute. And my routing for the pickup coil wires are going to be the same thing. Following above this part of the frame here, I'm going to connect it up back right there. All right, now I'm going to get this wire loom on. That's what that looks like there coming out of the stator case. Goes underneath the rear cylinder exhaust manifold. I have it zip tied to this little hole there. That way it's away from the hottest part of the exhaust. And then it goes up and around. Here is where the crimp connections were. And I've got my pickup wheels coming out of the wiring loom and then up into the connector. While I was at it, I also added more wiring loom to my starter wire that I've got routed here in the factory location going all the way to the starter. And then there was a some kind of green wire. That green wire right there, it also shares the same wiring loom as my starter wire. I'll put that green wire in there. That way everything is nice and neat and tidy. And that's what my wires look like all set up. The regulator's plugged in, the bike electronics are plugged in, and I've also got my in-off dash cam and my charging cord going back here to the battery tender. Next, I'm going to clean out a little bit here with some paper towel, get some of this old moly out, and then I'm going to apply a fresh coat of moly and get the final drive back together. All right, that's what that looks like in there. Good. And then same thing here, I'm just going to clean this up and get a fresh coat of moly. And then tighten down these bolts with a 12mm wrench. And the teeth here that'll go into the rear tire get the same treatment. Just going to wipe off a little bit of this dirt and old grease and put on some fresh new grease. For back here, I like to use this multi-vehicle high-temp red grease. And the same thing here for this side of the rear tire. I'm going to do a little bit of grease on the splines too. Don't do moly. It's tempting since you've done moly all on the drivetrain shafts, and then you see these, spline teeth, and you're like, oh, let's do moly here. It'll make a huge mess. The moly will just fling out from the spinning force of the rear tire. And now's a good opportunity to get some brake clean. Maybe clean out some of this brake dust, your rear drum brake components. But mine are pretty good. Did it the last time I was lubing the splines, so I'm just going to put things back. Facilitate smoother install and removal, and also just smoother operation. I'm going to do a tiny little bit of aluminum anti-seize here on the smooth part of the upper and lower shock mounts. And then how it looks for me is that there's one washer up here, no washer at the bottom yet. Put my shock on. Make sure that these numbers are facing out. And at the top, I got two more washers. This slit cut washer and a nut, cap nut. And at the bottom, I've got one washer, slit cut washer, and then the nut. And then go ahead and tighten it down with your 17 mil wrench. All right, wheel on the tire, the splines on the left side of the motorcycle. Lift up the back a little bit. And then let's get this tire lifted up and aligned into the teeth, into the splines here. As you do so, make sure that this brake lever rod is like kind of out of the way to the right. And same thing with this, make sure it doesn't get stuck back there. Alright. Okay. Just going to reapply a light coat of some more anti-seize, this time on this axle bolt here. And then also make sure you get your spacer, your washer, and your 27 mil nut. This axle rod will go in starting from the right side of the bike. Get this through. And then here on the left side bike, washer, your 27 mil nut, and then we'll tighten this down. Just spin the tire to make sure nothing is getting held up or over tightened. Now I'm just going to align it here such that the hole can match up. Oops, that can work. For my new cotter pin. There we go. This part here, the outside of my rear brake shoes, the drums, it was kind of like tilted out of position, but it's not so hard to like just, you know, move this piece into position. All right, next let's get this on and this piece back on. Down here for this brake torque rod, this bolt with the cotter pin hole goes in from the back side. And then it goes through there with the nut. 14 mil bolt here. And then get this cotter pin back in. Now, let's get this piece back on for the rear brakes. I'm going to loosen this end bolt here. Keep the spring in there. This piece will go through the hole here, and then the bolt will go through the hole. I'm just going to tighten this a little bit more, and then I'll make some final adjustments when I get back out riding. What I'm looking for is no drag resistance from the brake, but pretty early, brake bite engagement. That way I can get some good rear brake control with that front lever there with the foot. I think I'll rock with that until I test drive. Off camera, I got this right side shock back on. Same thing, numbers facing towards the outside, and I followed the same bolt pattern and washer pattern. All right, sticking with the theme of just working my way from the bottom up. I'm gonna get the exhaust back on. This may look a little bit different for you, especially if you got the OEM exhaust. I just got these straight pipes. But regardless, make sure you get your exhaust crush gasket in there. Clamshell clamp on. Let's get this exhaust in. Okay. Going back and forth there to make sure everything goes on straight. Next are these plastic cover pieces with your little reflectors. I like to angle it back like that and then bring it down there to connect it. All right, line up the teeth, and then there. Next, I'm gonna get this left side Vulcan 750 side cover on. And now the gas tank goes back on. You want to line up the tabs here of the fuel tank with this part. I'm going to leave the gas tank loose for now, just so I can have some mobility to plug in these fuel lines again, these left and right fuel lines for the petcock. And then don't forget the little circlip thing here to hold on the fuel hose. Now I'm just going to get this vacuum line here, 3/16 fuel hose. All right, it took some finagling, but got it in. If you need to, you can use a heat gun to get this a little bit more malleable. All right, now you can realign this hole here and get these 12mm bolts back in. Just make sure you got the washer piece too. The next 12mm bolt here. And finally here with your fuel tank, the fuel sending unit, the fuel gauge level sensor. If you have a Vulcan 750 from California, like mine, denoted by these 2 ports, cap off the right one, and then with your 3/16 fuel hose, I'm going to route this to the bottom of the bike and then just leave it open. Granted, that's also because I'm getting rid of the air suction valve and the canister and all of the emission stuff. If you're not doing that, connect this back up as it was in part 1 with all the T-valves and hoses. I'm going to take out this stock grommet here, make room for this fuel hose to go down there. I've got that fuel tank vent hose tied into the wiring loom that goes up to the bike, and then the hose just, it's open down there. This next step is specific if you're doing the ear shave mod, again, with the pod filters going right on the carbs. You gotta do something with the crankcase breather vent, because normally it connects up into the airbox, but my airbox is all gone. So I got this crankcase breather assembly from MGO. This is what the full kit looks like. Filter with the bracket. I had this extra hose laying around the garage that I snugged on there. That way it holds on the filter, because all this filter does is just goes through the bracket. There's nothing to hold it on. And then I'm going to use the stock crankcase breather vent. I'm just going to snug this on there. And I'm going to mount it right here. All right, I'm going to get this clamp back on. Let's get this in there. All right, and that's what that looks like. I used one of my old air filter housing bolts to hold this on. And really, you can put this anywhere. I've seen it up here. I've seen it on the other side of the bike, wherever you see fit. And finally, one of my favorite parts, I've been waiting for this, getting on the new pod filters, these K&N RC 2340s. Make sure the filter is on snug and even all around. And I also made sure that this hose clamp goes on the outer rim of the carburetor, because at first it kind of fell off and it was snugging down this black part. Let me show you what that looks like on the other side. I want to make sure that the hose clamp bites down on this outer edge of the carburetor for a nice snug fit. And finally, for the first time in 2 months, the seat goes back on. Get these 2 bolts back in here. Start her up. Choke on. Fuel on. A little bit of throttle, crack the throttle. That sounds really good, and it feels even better having this thing back together and running. Let me check the oil, get some air in the back tire, and clean myself up. I'm going to go for a ride, and then I'll round out the video with my final thoughts about the Stator replacement for this Vulcan 750. couple things to wrap up this video series here for my Stator replacement. First off, I only added 1 gallon, 3.875 liters of oil, and the bike supposedly takes 4 liters, but my 1 gallon overfilled the sight glass. And I've seen this before. Other commenters on YouTube have posted the question, like what's up there? I don't know, but all I did was I just drained a little bit of oil out of that bottom center 17 mil drain bolt, and then got the oil sight glass, right kind of in the middle between the low and high. Another YouTuber that I watch in the motorcycling community is Spite's Corner. And in a past video, he couldn't have said it better in that he is a professional amateur. And that's exactly what I am. Don't let this fancy checkered floor garage and my monotone voice fool you. I'm an amateur. If I can do it, then I really believe that you guys can do it following this video, following the advice and the information over at the VN750.com forum. I think what helps is having the right tool for the right jobs. A good car jack, I got one from Harbor Freight, helped me to just lower and maneuver the engine. Some good wrenches and socket extenders, all the different tool bits needed to take this bike apart. And really, I don't know, there were like a handful of, different bits to take off all the different bolts, and it really was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then lastly, I was really hoping to get away with not needing to adjust the carburetors after doing the ear shave mod. When I had the bike worked on, when I first got it in 2021, yeah, they replaced the stator and everything, but they also adjusted the carbs and put in bigger jets because the previous owner had put in these straight pipes but never adjusted the carburetor, so it just wasn't running right. So I was hoping that with those bigger jets that the dealer installed in 21, I can get away with the ear shave mod and not have to do any, carb adjusting, tuning. It's not the case. I'm getting some hesitation at like 30 miles an hour, 4,000 RPM, and it's sputtering and stuttering, and I can't really get faster than that. So I think the bike needs more fuel. Like when you change how the bike breathes, whether intake or the exhaust side, you got to change the pilot jets and whatnot for the fuel. So I'm pretty sure it's not getting enough fuel. Let me know in the comments below. I'm also going to post over to the experts at VN750.com to confirm my hypothesis. And if that's the case, in the next video, as soon as I can, I'm going to remove the carbs, get some new jets in there, tune it up, that way I can go for nice long rides. So that's all I got. I hope you enjoyed the Stator series. I'm really happy to put this out there for the Vulcan 750 forum. I know it's a very common thing that all of these bikes need when their friggin' stators die. So as always, thanks for watching. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.